Hello friends, welcome back for another part of our walkthrough of Oxygen Not Included's base game. Not spaced out. Just the base game. Let's talk about what's changed recently. Last time we were getting our blossoms up, and I've still only replaced about half of them, and that was partially because I was actually a little bit low on seeds. So this is something that can happen. You might not necessarily have all the seeds to replace all these all at once. So it is okay to do about half and half for a little bit, and as soon as these grow, I will start up a new work order on my grills to just create some gristleberries for the time being until we find our ice biome. So once we find that, it'll definitely change some things. Fire pole is also done, and you definitely just want one kind of going up and down in the middle of your base, only because your duplicates travel so much faster when they're going down using the fire pole, and it's pretty cheap, so you might as well do that. I also added a fridge. One thing I forgot to mention when I was saying you should probably be cooking your food into something is for a lot of times it's either for preservation or for more calories. So in the case of pickled meals, I think I might have said it'd give you extra food, but that's not true. It actually just preserves it for longer, and it'll especially be preserved for longer if it goes into your refrigerator. So this is definitely something that you'll want to do because, like I said, just wasting food is one of the biggest ways you can lose the game. So that's definitely a pretty important thing to get. Research in the meantime, I have been focusing on a couple of different things. One of which is just getting deep into the tree for shipping, because shipping is going to be something that's going to come up around cycle 50. It is an extreme backbone to getting the most out of your duplicants' time by not having them run all over the map trying to get supplies. If your supplies are all centralized in one place, and if they can be automatically loaded into some things, it'll save your duplicants a tremendous amount of time. So that's what I've been doing in the meantime. Other things, like I mentioned, is you want to get deodorizers because we will be digging into the polluted oxygen and slime biomes here. I also got some other things like these insulated tiles just so that you can block anything off that might be too hot or too cold if you get to that point. Probably not expecting to hit anything with that yet, but that might be something that you have in your own run. There's some weird maps where you could spawn like right next to an ice biome or right next to a biome that's too hot where you have your food trying to grow or something like that, so it definitely can happen. The other two things I got were this water sieve and the liquid reservoir. Those are things you're going to want to get as well for how we're going to be switching off of algae and into a different oxygen source, which hopefully we'll be able to do, or at least get started in this video. So, yeah. The other couple things that I wanted to mention before we actually start doing things is this. This is a little story trait that comes with the game. I'm not going to be interacting with it. You can get a pretty good duplicate out of it if you do this, but you need access to a bunch of things like natural gas and being able to cook higher quality foods that we just don't have the capacity to worry about right now. So I'm not going to bother with this in this run. I might make another video sometime later to talk about this, but if you see it, you can just kind of ignore it for the time being. And I'm going to be ignoring it in this run. The other thing is we did see our natural gas geyser. So this, once again, produces natural gas at a very hot temperature. For now, we're just going to leave it alone, but this is extremely useful. We will want to use this later, so we'll come back to this. One other thing I wanted to mention is digging around water pits. You will want to make sure to at least leave a couple of layers of buffer, because some of these materials on these walls or on the floor here will start to leak water and might break it open and have it all pour into your base. That's not the end of the world, but it is a big time waster if something like that happens. So just try to keep 2 levels of things in between, and also make sure that when you're digging, let me see if I can find some. When you're digging, if you dig out something underneath sand, it will all fall. And then if you imagine that the water level is here, that will also make the water fall out in addition to everything else. So just be careful when you're mining around water that you don't accidentally dig something out and make the water all leak out somewhere. So that's what I've been doing over here. The most of this digging was actually to find seeds, since I was so low on blossom seeds. But yeah, so continue to dig like I mentioned. Let's move on to tackling this. So what you're going to see over on the sides of your base is you're going to see a lot of biomes that look like this. They have this polluted water. They have a bunch of slime in the walls, which can be really annoying to get through. I'm just going to show you how I will typically deal with it, but I'm also going to mention that what the big deal is with slime is it will gas off naturally, like a bunch of things do, but it will be with polluted oxygen that is infected with slime lung germs. If your duplicants get sick because of slime lung, it's not good, but it's also not the end of the world. So you will just kind of want to avoid it, but you don't need to like wear a spacesuit when you go in there or something like that. Can be fine. Just you'll need to deal with the polluted oxygen eventually and get it cleaned out, and that's what we're going to be doing here. So we're going to start digging this way because I really want to get access to two things. I want access to this polluted water, and I also want to see the rest of the map. So we've been digging over in this direction a little bit. I need to add some more ladders here, actually. We've been digging over here to try to find our ice biome, because that's something that we definitely want to find pretty soon. I can't really dig in this direction until I start getting through this stuff. Haven't seen any ice biomes in any other direction yet, so it's definitely something I need to find. So, when you're ready to tackle entering this area, one thing you want to pay attention to is the polluted water will also be something that kind of gases off over time. And if that does that, depending on what's on top of it, sometimes it can be like carbon dioxide or something else that's random, that can still allow it to gas off even at a higher pressure than what it's supposed to. So sometimes your pressure levels in here can be insanely high, and if I were to open this up without expecting it, it would pour polluted oxygen into my base. My duplicants would start hacking and coughing. I'd get some debuffs, making them work a little bit slower. It's not the end of the world, but it is something that I at least want to prepare for and deal with. So definitely make sure that before you crack any of these open that you know what the pressure is. If it's pretty low pressure like this, you can be a little bit more like carefree about it. But if it's high pressure like this, it will back pressure into your base, because if you look at my pressure here, it's like maybe a kilogram, a little bit more. This is 15 times that, so it's going to back pressure pretty hard. So the way that I'm going to deal with this is you're going to use these deodorizers like I mentioned with your research, and I want to just create a big row of them like that. If I have space, I actually might not do it here. Let me do it somewhere else. I'm going to do it here, and I'm going to do it in a pattern that lets me get as many deodorizers as possible in one small area. I'm just going to deconstruct this because I want to put a row of deodorizers here. Where is it? Right there. And I want to put a row of deodorizers there. I will usually put these on mesh tiles. You can put them on regular tiles if you want to for this particular circumstance. I do need to clear out the tiles above, otherwise my duplicants won't be able to build everywhere, because I do need to have a floor underneath. But I will just put a big wall of these right here, and that's mostly for the back pressure. If there's not much pressure, I'll usually just put like one or two in a pattern like this and then dig into there. Your duplicants will be slightly exposed to it, but it's not that bad. I do need to hook all this stuff up to power, by the way. And then your duplicants will need to run sand into this area also. So, let's wait for them to get that done, and I'll talk about another thing here in the meantime. One other bit of research that we got was our water cleaning. And this is going to be useful mostly for getting our plum bathrooms up, just because we don't have to have duplicants spend time maintaining these outhouses anymore. It will also give you a small morale buff, so I'm just going to build a small one right here. This may move over time, like I mentioned with a lot of other things, so we'll just get this build going. And what you're going to want is a water sieve that's somewhere nearby. I don't really care where it is. We'll find a better place for that later. We want a liquid reservoir behind it, which was another piece of research that I mentioned. That's just so you have a place to hold all of your water that you're not necessarily using right away. As soon as these duplicants get all this stuff done, by the way, we will crack this open so we can see what's going on. And then we're going to want to just make a bathroom setup. So I usually will like to put a few toilets and a few showers. The showers will also get your duplicants a little bit of a morale bonus. And if they're not doing anything else, you might as well just give them something to do that doesn't require much or any power. And a shower is a good way to do that. But if you do something like that, that'll get you a new setup for your bathrooms. And the way that you want to set this up is have all of your bathrooms intakes. So white is the intake. That's where you need to send stuff to. I want to connect it up to my reservoir like this. Remember, whenever you're connecting these things up, green has to connect into white. And the direction that it flows is away from green and into white. I see a lot of questions about, I can't figure out my plumbing problems. That's usually what the problem is. So with this, we're going to connect it to the output on the tank and into our toilets and showers. Our toilets and showers then all need a place to drain, and I will usually try to do something like this. Create a little bit of extra pipe, so that if these are all being used at the same time, they don't all get flushing out water and blocking each other. So if you do something like this, it'll let them all drain nicely and give you a little bit of buffer in case you have some kind of water problem at some point. We're going to run all of the outputs on the toilets and the showers into our water sieve, and then our water sieve is just going to be connected to that. This is not going to last us forever, by the way. We will want to eventually change this setup because your tank will get full. We'll deal with that when the time comes. I'm just going to set up something like this. Wire bridge over the top of that. And there we go. Let's prioritize this a little bit more heavily. Just so we can get it all set up. Once they build this top row, I will retile this because I want to create like a wind tunnel, kind of, to have everything coming through and being purified by this. I'm also going to take this a little bit slow because I haven't mined any slime yet, and I want to talk about what to do with the slime once you get it. We'll actually preset that up. Let's just get that going right now. I'm still not going to take any duplicates yet. I'll take another one here pretty soon. It'll probably be dedicated to cooking. But for the time being, and especially because I'm advising newer players, just don't worry about it yet. We'll get extra duplicates in due time. What I'm going to set up here, though, is I'm going to set up a small station, something like this. It may expand over time, but I want to set something up that has some deodorizers and a setup that looks kind of like this. This is going to be the place that I take all of my polluted dirt and all of my slime to, so that if it gases off, I basically just get free oxygen, and it's also away from my duplicates for the most part. They will occasionally pass through here, but the gas off is so slow when it's in an area like this, it's not that big of a deal. And like I mentioned, the slime lung is not great to have, but it's also not like game ending or that huge of a problem. So you want to contain it if you can, but it's not like mission critical type of stuff. Alright, now that we have all this stuff set up, let's put our floor back on here, or our ceiling, I guess. I'm going to also heavily prioritize this build to get our slime going somewhere. Nice, good job, Lindsay. Doing a great job. What we're going to do is I'm just going to mine out a few things just so I get access to my first piece of slime. Because once we get access to that, we're going to want to have this bin requested at a pretty high priority. So I'm going to already ask for rot piles and polluted dirt and stuff like that. I'll put it on just a little bit higher priority, like a 6, so that if somebody that's not necessarily dedicated to that wants to come get it, they can. And then once you drop that first piece of slime, I'm going to also ask these bins to request it. So there we go. As soon as we have that set up, if a duplicate mines a piece of slime, they will typically stop and run it over to those bins. They will be exposed, like I said, a little bit to this. It's basically inevitable that you will get exposed. But it's still fine. We're not that worried. As I go further in here, and because there will be so much back pressure, I'm just going to continue to add these as I go. And I'll probably just do this like every other one, so we don't have to like tediously go up to the top here and deal with all that. Slowly making some progress here. And once we get pushed in here will be kind of the key to our next part of our build. May split this into a couple of different parts depending on how long this takes, because my duplicates are taking kind of a long time. I don't really like that much. Let's do this. Let's call it here. Let me split it into another part really quickly. I'll stop here and then I'll come back after some of this stuff has been built out. Then we'll finally crack this open. We'll get our bathrooms all the rest of the way set up and get them started. And we're also going to be using this for our oxygen source now, so we can get rid of our algae. So I'll stop here, jump into another video really quickly, and yeah, we'll get to the next part.